Right on time. Good morning, everyone. I will call to order this special meeting of the Operations Planning Committee for Wednesday, May 20th. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes of April 15th.
This conference will now be recorded.
Give everybody to take a moment to take a look, and when you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to approve or take any additions or corrections.
So moved.
Thank you, Seth.
Second.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Terrific. Thank you. Okay, we will get right into it, and we'll go in order here. I will first turn it to Chairman Tara Achman for a Board of Education update.
You know what, Jamie, could you just give me a minute? Could someone go first? And that would be great.
Absolutely. We'll go down then to
Thank you.
Board of Finance Chair John Zagrodzky.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you. So, just a quick update from the Board of Finance. Has been reported in the media, but also with a lot of live coverage this past week. We completed our role in the annual budget process and have handed our recommended budget and mill rate over to the RTM. A quick summary of where we ended up. It was not an easy process this year. I guess I'd first start by saying that we elected to consider a couple of scenarios with regard to how we could reduce the budgets that were presented to us by the Board of Education and Board of Selectmen earlier this year, given the COVID-19 crisis. And as again has been reported, we had two scenarios: one to have a flat mill rate budget, and the second to have a flat tax levy budget. And without going through all that again, both boards did respond to the challenge that we laid out in front of them and responded thoughtfully. Where we ended up was a series of cuts for both the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen that got us to a flat tax levy budget, which means that we'll raise the same tax dollars that we raised last year with a resulting mill rate that's actually lower than what we had last year. The mill rate last year was 16.47, and it'll be 16.36 this year, or this coming year. So I think good news for taxpayers. I know that these decisions were not easy by either board, and nobody likes to cut spending, especially when we have a lot of fixed obligations and town services and assets to maintain. But I think we've come out in a good place, and one that we'll be able to manage going forward. So I did want to thank everyone for their role in this process. In terms of next steps, the RTM, as Seth mentioned, will take up the budget itself at their meeting on June 8th. And so we will look forward to a final decision as well as any deliberations from the RTM on that process. As for the Board of Finance, we're entering our glide phase, which is a welcome moment given all the work that's gone on in the last month or so. But we do have a few summer projects. One of them is going to be taking a look at the various balances we have on the balance sheet for the town that are for specific capital projects that may still be in process, but maybe are wrapped up, and we can free up those funds to include them in our fund balance reserves. That's a process we normally undertake in the fall, but given the current situation, taking a look at those now to see what funds we could free up just to have in our ready reserve seems like a good idea. So we'll be taking that up and starting that process with our June meeting. That's all the update I have. Unless anybody had any questions, I'll hand it back to you, Jamie.
Okay, thanks, John. Hold on one second.
Are you having any problems hearing people talk?
No, I can hear everybody fine, Kate.
Okay, because I'm getting interruptions online because my computer isn't working, so
Okay.
I just want to make sure that the meeting is going all right.
Kate checking in. We're having some technical difficulties from her computer. John, can you please tell me where we are in the Board of Finance's discussions on credit card fees, user fees, or convenience fees? Kind of lost track of that.
Yeah, So it's a good question. We've taken that up in a few of our meetings, but have not come up with a formal policy recommendation. I think that should be another thing we restart again in the summer. Just to summarize for the viewers or the folks listening in on the meeting, that the issue here is that we as a town face non-trivial charges for the use of credit cards, and given the trends, why we have far more payments by credit card than we've had historically, and so the town bears an increasingly large cost with regard to the transactions that are conducted by credit card. We charge a fee for large transactions like tax payments, but for a lot of things like beach stickers and what have you, the town actually bears the cost of those payments. And so the question is, what should we do about that? Should we simply tack on an extra cost for all transactions that are conducted by credit card? Should we simply build the cost of credit card transactions into the price for services, assuming that most people would pay by credit card anyway? And then finally, what should we do to make the town more open to other forms of payment, like Venmo and PayPal and all these other electronic ways of paying? So those are the things that we've looked at. There's actually, at least not on my board and others I've talked to, a real consensus, particularly on the 2 points as to whether we should try to build credit card costs into the pricing of minor town services like beach stickers, or whether we should simply have a tack-on cost to each transaction. If we went the latter route, I would just not want to discourage the use of credit cards, because as I've been reminded by Jennifer Charneski, the credit card process is actually a significant reduction in administrative burden for the town staff. It's just really easy to process as opposed to checks and cash and all that. And so we certainly don't want to discourage the use of that by tacking on fees that are too large. But we will take a look at that this summer and try to come to some resolution. What I'd like to have at the end of this effort is a policy, if you will, that would govern the use of credit cards and try to get a consistent approach to using credit cards across all town departments, obviously for the Board of Selectmen's consideration and approval.
I really appreciate that. As you know, we've driven many of our services online, and so this is an important feature of how business will be conducted from here forward. So we would be very grateful for that guidance as soon as you can provide it, so we can be consistent across our departments.
We've driven our credit cards online. We've even driven our town officials online. Maybe we should start charging for that too. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, thanks,
we
John.
can sell tickets.
Does anyone have questions for Chairman Zagrodzky?
My only question is the idea that you're going to address the balance sheet items. It's a great idea. It's just, I'm sure it will be a very exciting trip through the woods, and I think it will give you an opportunity to clean up and straighten out some things that are sitting in there. So I think that's a great idea.
I can guarantee unending excitement.
Mm-hmm. I should.
A few years on the Finance and Budget Committee, I couldn't agree with you more.
I should add, though, just so everyone knows, that the Board of Finance does do this every year. It's not anything new. You're just doing it sooner than you usually do. Correct, John?
Yeah, that's right. We've been doing this for years, actually, and the process is usually in the fall. And basically what we do is we look at all the funds that have been set up and set aside to support all kinds of projects in town. And every fall, we pull up a list of those projects for which there's been no activity for the last 18 months, right? And we take a look at those, and we talk to the leaders who are in charge of those budgets. Some are larger, some are smaller. And we just check with them and see what the status of the project is. If it's finished, or it doesn't look like it'll be spending the full balance of the money, we transfer that money back into the town's general funds. But sometimes they'll say, look, we're delayed past 18 months, but there's a reason for that, and we do expect to restart the project, so please don't take away that money, in which case we leave it alone. But every year we do this review. It's a standard process. It's every September, but we're just going to speed it up and look at them in July this year for the reasons that you described.
John, do you also look at the small capital accounts? That was a discussion item during the Board of Selectmen's budget this year.
Yeah, we're going to look at all of them.
Okay, great.
So any account that has a balance on the town's balance sheet, we'll take a look at.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for John?
One follow-up from me, John. Did I hear you technically say that with credit card fees and online payments, there might be a net savings to the town because administrative costs go down?
The administrative burden certainly goes down, right? So if you're processing checks or cash, or that requires trips to the bank and just a lot of in-person work, whether it's receiving payments in person or by mail, credit cards are instantaneous and automatic and requires just a lot less effort. In terms of whether that would result in cost savings, such as lower staff levels, all of that, I don't think that's the case. I think it just makes life a lot easier for town staff and makes record keeping a lot better, and therefore makes the process more efficient and frees their time up to do other things as opposed to process payments like this.
Understood. Thanks.
Okay, if there are no other questions for Chairman Zagrodzky, then I will ask Tara, are you ready to report?
Sure, thank you. Sorry, I was getting the last one signed on for e-learning. The Board of Education, I'm not sure we have a quiet period of the year. It certainly doesn't feel like it lately. We will begin the modification process from the cuts imposed by the Board of Finance. I believe we'll start those discussions on Tuesday. So I think that'll be, that'll be an interesting process for those to follow. Jamie, I wonder, is there anywhere, I know you were posting, and I know I've been on the town website. Is there anywhere where we're posting and or what's our tracking capabilities related to COVID? And mostly I'm wondering in terms of, as we start to look at what a plan might be for schools in the fall, how we'll look to aggregate information. Does the town have any plan of how they're looking to do that?
Can you be more specific? We have a dearth of information on the town website on COVID. If you go to the red bar at the top, you can either search in the search engine or you can go to the red emergency bar at the top and there's a link to the COVID resources. We have resources distributed from federal, state, and local and business. So what specifically is it that you're looking for?
So I guess what I'm looking for, if I go on there, and Kate, thank you, it's the red bar is helpful and clear, so whoever was handling that over at town, I appreciate. Where it says Darien COVID data, the last update is May 11.
Right.
Are we going to individually pull down from the state, or is that the place where I should direct admin as they start to look this? Will we break down by number and age group? I'm not entirely sure what data we will need. I'm just looking to understand where to look for the data.
Yeah, the best place if you want very specific data, and I don't know what our local health director is legally allowed to share and not allowed to share with you. Every day he gets a report from the state database, although I will tell you that from this last weekend through today, the state database has been non-functional. So we haven't received reports from the state on recent COVID data. You can always go to the state's website that has the town of Darien data. You can go on there and see, go to ct.gov/coronavirus and find the town by town data. If there are specific demographic data information that you need, that is not information that we would be posting publicly, Tara, but our health department does get those reports when the system is working. So if there's something specific that you need, you can funnel that request through me and I will make sure that you get it. Our data, local data, has been tracking exactly what the state data is, that children are very limited in their case data here in the state. And there could be a lot of reasons for that, right? There's been very limited testing of kids because the word that's been put out from the federal government all the way down has been that kids are generally not affected, although, you know, some scary reports about this new and different and very difficult offshoot of the COVID virus for young children. We have not had any reports of that here in Darien to date, at least that I've been notified of by our local health director. So I would say that
Sure, no, that's helpful. I'm just really looking for sources of information. If we need to pull down from the state or go through David, that's fine. I think probably schools being out of session versus schools being in session will just create different metrics or different maybe factors by which we may or may not see spread. So we're just getting started in the reopening plan, and I can certainly have the administration speak with David if that's helpful.
I think that would be helpful, and I would further encourage you as a board and maybe Dr. Adley to speak with the State Board of Ed to maybe have demographics specific to public schools data delivered directly to you from the state. There's no reason to go through different layers of people who are gatekeepers of data. I would ask the state to provide that to you directly, whatever it is you need, and we will certainly be here to support your request.
Great, thank you. That's a good idea. The only other thing that we really, we have lots of work, but I think the only thing before P&Z is, as John said, we'll now move to the RTM in terms of the budget, both education and F&B, and I think that's it on my end.
Thank you, Tara. Does anyone have questions for Chairman Auckman?
This is Steve O'Vanny.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's Steve O'Vanny. Tara, any updates on graduation? I actually have a graduating senior.
So I think the schools will issue that probably rather than OPC. But I do know they have a working group of students, parents, and administration. I do know that they have looked at, they're setting up a variety of scenarios based on the Commissioner of Education's guidance. I think really what we're trying to do, if at all a way, is to have some version of an in-person graduation if possible, and then set up alternate plans if that does not work.
Okay. I think somehow or other I did come up with a plan that might have reached the principal. But I never heard anything back.
All right. Well, you can feel free to forward. I will tell you that the board isn't planning it, but if you feel like it might have gotten lost in space, feel free to forward to me and I'll send it on.
I don't think it got lost in space. Okay.
You know, the other thing I'll just add is the governor did just issue guidance around summer school for our schools, which cannot open until July 6th. And so we will monitor closely what that means for the schools.
Thank you, Tara. A follow-on to the graduation question. I know that you saw yesterday I forwarded a couple of emails to you and Dr. Adley. I don't know who's on the working group for graduation, but I have received a number of emails of inquiry. Obviously, we have our COVID testing tent set up in front of the Darien High School. I would like notice to have to move that if required. And I don't know which parents that email me I should or shouldn't be speaking to, since I don't know who's actually on that working group. So I will look for direction from Dr. Adley and from yourself to give me enough notice to be able to move that tent if necessary.
So I think, absolutely, I think Dr. Adley got back to you last night that he would discuss it with you. And I would tell you, yes, that tent, if we're able to do anything on grounds, would need to be moved. So we certainly will supply you with notice. I think on the issue of parents, I certainly would refer them back to the administration on graduation. They're probably the best ones to speak on it. it is an operational issue on how this will come. So I think board members, we're all eager to hear the exact plans and want to communicate that. But I think they're best suited at this point to answer those questions because we don't have firm answers. And I think Dr. Adley is more than happy to engage with those parents. So if you get any questions, I would just forward them along. And I think it really is up to the school administration to message on the specifics of that.
Perfect, thanks. Okay, any other questions for Chairman Ochman? All right, then we'll move on to Steve Alvani, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you, Jamie, and good to see everybody. First of all, I want to apologize for the hat. I've not been able to get a haircut lately, so my hair is turning gray. No, they're still closed. The one thing I do want to say in advance is I personally think that the 5 of us and plus Terry are really working hard in town, and I think our quote unquote staff, like the director of planning and zoning, I think the director of finance, Jamie Stevenson, Kate Bush, all those people, I think, are working overtime to support us. I think those guys are working their tail off. I can tell you personally, I think Jeremy Ginsburg and his couple people that are working there are working way overtime to get the town back in order and try to get up and running. On our last meeting, I spoke about Corbin Drive, Oxford School Playhouse. I'm just going to run through a couple things on our last meeting that I talked about, things that are important. We've had so far, I think, 4 or 5 virtual meetings over the last month. I think they all went pretty well. One was under an hour, around an hour, another one was over 3 hours. We've had so far 2 meetings on the Oxford School redevelopment. We've had about 4.5 hours worth of hearings, of public hearings. We went over almost the entire project at this point. We went over stormwater management initially on both of our meetings so far, but we're going to have another dedicated meeting to that next week. We've only really heard from 2 neighbors. I personally reached out to other neighbors. One of our commissioners, Jim Rand, is the direct neighbor of the property. He has recused himself to this, so we've not really heard any major neighbor items to this project. We addressed traffic, we addressed building heights, we addressed setbacks. The stormwater management, the reason why that's pushed back is if you know the site or know the project or much about it, I know Mr. Zagrodzky and Tara's probably keenly aware. It's a very sophisticated stormwater management system that they're putting in. It's at the bottom low point of the site, and the document that explains it is 700 pages. We had that reviewed by Rendis and Mead. Craig Flaherty is working on it, and he has a 4-page review that's going to go back and forth a couple of times. I don't want anyone to be alarmed. This happens all the time. When we did the Heights project, that was another sophisticated project. Their underwater stormwater management system holds 1 million gallons of water if it's full, and it's 12 feet deep and the size of almost 2 swimming pools. So that is that. Anyone has any questions relative to that, you can please ask at the end. The next item that is important to us is today is a great day. The restaurants are going to open today, and the retailers are allowed to open today. I think Terry and Jamie can speak more specifics with regards to the retailers. I'm on top of that a little bit, not fully. I'm more really concerned with the outdoor dining of the restaurants at this point. What we did is we moved to put up a tent in town, to have outdoor seating in town, and it's pretty much, I think, statewide that you need planning and zoning approval for that. Instead of us having to approve them one-on-one, we designated and delegated the approval of this outdoor seating to the administrative staff in our planning and zoning firm, which is Dave Keating, Jeremy Ginsburg, and Fred, for the most part. So far, just as a quick example, and we also need a lot of tenants and landlords to work in conjunction with each other. Some adjacent buildings, I'll give you one quick example. The Goose and Bodega and CVS Pharmacy are all next to each other. They kind of sort of share the same parking lot. Those three tenants have to, or those three tenants and landlords have to work together to get this to work out. We got plans from Sugar Bowl, Giovanni. 1020 has an existing outdoor patio that they have tested right now. Adjacent to them, I always forget the name of that new restaurant there. They have a pergola that we approved a couple of years ago. They have tables outside there. 1020 is going to do a future tent in their parking lot, which is going to take up probably half of the parking lot that they own. And that tent should probably be installed, I think, next week. Rory's put in an application. I said it already, the Goose, but they have an application in Upper Crust as part of that. So we are moving forward on that, and hopefully we have other ones that can come in over time. I will tell you a little bit of just two things that we did not know relative to that. One important item that we made public, and I actually asked the newspaper to put it on the front page of the paper, to have a liquor permit if you have outdoor sales, be it Giovanni's or be it Rory's. They don't have any outdoor sales at all. You need 3 town official sign-offs. One is from the planning and zoning director, one is from the health department, one is from the fire department. To put up a tent in our town, some of the tents are small, some of the tents are big. We are also, and it's been around for a while, we're requiring a building permit. We allowed these restaurants to have the tents up through Labor Day. It's called a temporary tent permit, or temporary outdoor seating. Our start time is today, our ending time is Labor Day Tuesday. A tent that's of substance, which is an example would be when we have the community fund run over at Pear Tree School. They put up a big tent. That tent needs approval and needs a building permit. We would not want a tent to get caught in the wind during a July storm or a thunderstorm comes ripping through and picked up off its stanchions and moved someplace. So we do have the building department looking at those before and after they go up. The tables do have to be spaced 6 feet apart, and you're not allowed to have more than 5 chairs at a table. It's taken, I think, when I've been told, about 3 passes for most restaurants to get their plan right and get it approved by the 3 officials plus the building officials. But we're going to see those up and running, and hopefully that's going to go good. The next thing that we're starting to work on is the retail stores. We've been reached and approached by certain retail stores that want to put outdoor retailing for the stores. It's 2 things. One, you can look at it as sidewalk sales, where they put a little tent outside their store, which is something what I call a tailgating tent that says either New York Jets on it, or New York Giants or Patriots. You know, if Bobbles wants to put that up in front of their store, that should be fine. If another retailer, be it the DCA or the Darren's Workshop, wants to put a big tent out in their parking lot behind their store, they are going to need building planning zoning approval, and they're also going to need a building department approval for a tent. My hope is that stores like Darien Sports Shop and like the DCA do put big tents outside, open up and have sales outside. As I understand, it's a 50% rule. So for argument's sake, if the store can hold 100 people, you're only allowed to have 50 people inside. And a lot of us have seen that at Joe's, seen that already at like Home Depot and stores like that. I got Home Depot, I'm not going to Trader Joe's. But you've seen it like that already. Again, we did administrative approvals on that process forward. So if somebody comes in to town hall or emails town hall and they want to put a tent outside, Jeremy and the staff that's working today have full approval to approve those projects, or approve those February 10th. And for retailers, we extended through Labor Day also. I venture to guess that we're going to want the fire department to look at it, and the building permit will have to be done. One thing, and I knew it was going to happen, I did read about the papers. We did get an email from it that the Board of Selectmen did approve. So far, to my knowledge, you can correct me when you want to, Jamie, parking in the tent in the municipal parking lot, which is the one that's behind the Goose, Bodega, and CVS Pharmacy. If certain retailers and certain restaurants want to go on the municipal lot, need another layer of approval, which I've been assured by Jamie personally that she's going to have her board try to get those approved as soon as possible. And there's evidence that she already did do that.
Yeah, I'll just clarify. I'll clarify a little bit for you, Steve. At our last Board of Selectmen meeting, the board approved the process by which they've given me as first selectman the authority to make those decisions on behalf of our board. So it's not a blanket approval.
Yeah.
I need to be included in that approval process.
That's fantastic. So that's going to shorten the approval process and cut the red tape.
Yep.
Two things that everyone on the P&Z Commission want to do everything for our retailers and restaurants in town so they can survive. We've said that many, many times. It came up again last night. We were not the first person to do it. We were not the only person to do it. We are waiving off that would go to P&Z for any of these administrative approvals or applications or whatever it is. So it comes to the restaurateurs, retailers, landlords. They're doing all that stuff. The next thing that is on my list, and we've talked about it a little bit, and I think it's going to be, it's going to take a grander scale, is to do a bigger sidewalk sale. Many towns and areas around here, and Jamie Stevenson and I have had some conversations relative to it, to have a grander, for lack of a better word, sidewalk sale, where we can close some streets, maybe close Bay Street or Grove Street or Center Street to have a bigger sidewalk sale. In my mind, it's something to me like the Memorial Day Parade, where the town shuts down basically all of downtown and you have a parade. So if you look at it in that vein, that it's a Memorial Day Parade type of setup, when you close the post road and then you let the retailers go outside. That's something that I would personally love to see. I don't know how it's gonna filter out. We have reached out and heard from a little bit from the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce does do 2 sidewalk sales promotions already every year. One in the spring, one in the summer, one in the fall. I think the one that's in the July, we honestly don't really get involved in the P&Z Commission. This year we may get involved in it. If that's the model that they're going to follow and they want to make it sooner, that's fine. Me personally, again, I picked Father's Day weekend, June 20th, for a weekend such as that, to do something like that. I heard it at one point in time, and Jamie, please correct me or provide information to you or Terry. I think phase 2 of its grand opening is supposed to be, or was talked about being June 20th. That is Father's Day weekend. So if we can do something like that and maybe pick a day, we can do that. It's a month away from today, so we definitely have time. But how all those pieces work together is going to be a little bit above my pay grade and outside of my jurisdiction or my board's jurisdiction. But that's something that we would definitely support. Moving on. A couple weeks ago, not this meeting, last meeting, but we approved the Darien Theater project, where they're going to put in 4 new apartments on the 2nd floor and maybe 3 retail stores on the ground floor. We asked to draft up a approval resolution for that project. We had another, maybe a couple of hours of hearings on that project. The neighbors, the adjoining property owners, who both wrote in letters that were in support of the project. Mr. Genovese, who owns the property across the street, was in support of it. I think the Dulcetti brothers have a property across the street. They were in support of it. Mrs. Angrillo, who owns a Darren Sports Shop, who is adjacent and shares a parking lot, they were in support of it. So that project is moving forward. They did already get their demolition permit. So if you do go back behind the theater, you'll see a couple of dumpsters back there, and they're demoing the inside of the property. What else do we have? As a matter of note, it hasn't come up recently, the Boy Scouts typically have their tag sale in, I think it was in May, it's usually in May, because of the situation we're in with COVID-19, that was canceled. They've requested to move that to another date, maybe in the fall, if things come back to life. As you may know, either tangentially or actuality, that is a big fundraiser for the Boy Scouts. So that's something that may come up in the future, that if it's not going to be in the spring, when it's spring cleaning, it's going to be in the fall, where fall cleaning is. So hopefully that gets back on the docket. But in our resolution for that, it was specific of when that tag sale is supposed to be, in terms of dates and days and hours. So we have to make sure we adjust that if requested in the fall and things do open up. What else do we have? We have another dock that's coming up on 14 Raymond Street. We approved a new house or a pickleball court over on what's that? 20 Juniper. So we're moving forward. We have stuff going on. Our staff is working really hard. Corbin Drive, the Corbin District project, they broke ground, so to speak. They knocked out a bunch of buildings in the back. Again, the federal project, they have probably at this point half of their water tanks in the ground, 12-foot deep hole that hold 1 million gallons of water. They're moving forward. At Clay House, we talked about it, and our meetings are going good. We're moving forward. We're not stopping. I don't think we get a quiet period until the end of June. That's it for me, folks. Any questions?
That's awesome, Steve. Thank you so much for keeping all that great work going during this unusual time. It's very important for our town. Anybody have any questions for Steve? Any other questions for Steve?
No, great update.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, for all that work to get those businesses open. Jamie, if you don't mind, before we jump to Seth, I'm just running some numbers, and can I ask Mr. Zagrodzky a question just so I can clarify for my board?
Sure.
Sure, go ahead.
John, the reports kind of that we've seen in the paper and stuff is that the overall cut to the Board of Education's budget was a $1.24 million cut. However, our finance director is noting it as a $1.5 million cut, with the cut of the $300,000 to the HVAC system. Can you and I, or can you just shoot me an email, because I want to make sure we have those numbers reported correctly, both in like the mill rate calculation and as we prepare to go to the RTM?
Sure. I think I shared a spreadsheet that has all of the components and everything that actually was cut. I'll resend that to you. This sheet also has the Board of Selectmen budget and every other assumption with regard to grand list, taxes raised, and the mill rate. And the spreadsheet shows you what those calculations are, but I'll send that to you.
Okay, I don't have that. Maybe that's what Rich is working off of. I just want to make sure as we report out, we're seeing as accounting it for 1.5 million, and I just want our numbers to match for the public. So if you could send that to me, that'd be great. And if we have any questions, we can talk offline.
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to moderator Seth Morton.
Thank you, Jamie. The Rules Committee met on Monday night and set the agenda for the June 8th RTM meeting, which would be the budget meeting. We assigned the committees that are going to report out on it, and we're ready to go. There'll also be one other item besides the budget which is amendment to Appendix B. It's a bookkeeping item that allows the moderator some power in moving meeting dates around if something happens. We discovered that you'd have to in the past you would have to call a meeting of the Rules Committee to change the agenda or to cancel the meeting. So we gave the Rules Committee put on the agenda a little bit more power to the moderator to move meeting dates around. The Rules Committee took no action on moving the date of the state of the town. That there was no support to do that. And so that was it. One other thing was the Rules Committee asked me to respectfully ask you if you would come and talk to us about the COVID virus, perhaps during the announcements section of the budget meeting. It seemed like a great time to have you or your designee come forward and tell us what the status is at that time. We've got a good audience, and so I think the Rules Committee felt that was a helpful thing if you would do that.
Sure, I'm very happy to do that.
And that's the story.
Okay, any questions for Seth Morton?
Jimmy, I don't have a real question, it's just a comment. You just talked about the state of the town stuff, which I guess you didn't move on it. I sent a note that said we're flexible if you did want to move it. My only thought process in that was, I thought when the state of the town, state of the union, state of the state things came on, they were kind of in line, where the town went first, and then I think the state goes in the middle of the year, and then the state of the union of the country goes in January. That's why I always thought it was set up like that. I don't know. It made a little bit of sense.
The feeling was that all the newly elected members are pretty much assembled for the first time, and it's a great way to kick off the whole season. And then we have been inviting the following meeting, have been inviting in representatives from the town of Stamford, from the city of Stamford, and from Norwalk to talk about, well, what's going on and where are they going, so that the town of Darien gets a picture of what's going on around them and what's going on within the town itself.
I got you. Okay, but it's a moot point because you didn't move on it anyway.
Right.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Seth? So I will give a brief update, and I'm managing to finish this meeting a few minutes before 10 because I have a 10 o'clock meeting. I certainly am willing to answer any questions. There's a lot going on from Town Hall and my department. We're coming up on Memorial Day. Well, first of all, hopefully everybody got my code read last night talking about the exciting news that today we're beginning slowly the reopening of our state's economy. Very much looking forward to our local businesses beginning to open up, those that are ready, those that want to. It's important to note that there is no mandate for businesses to open. If they're not feeling safe or they haven't met all of the guidelines set out by the governor's advisors. So we are looking forward to seeing folks dining outside tonight and to welcome the doors opening of our beloved local retailers. But in order to make the reopening successful, we all have to follow the rules. We all have to have our masks with us and wear our masks when we are in close proximity to other people. Businesses are allowed to require you to wear a mask when you walk into their stores, so please respect those rules. We as a town have decided that in order for local businesses to not have to turn anybody away because they might not have a mask in their pocket, we are providing to local businesses a small supply of disposable masks to assist them in that effort. We really want to make sure that people who want to come to shop or dine have the ability to do so and don't get turned away. Memorial Day weekend is coming. It's going to be different here in Darien this weekend. We are all going to miss our treasured Memorial Day parade, but I'm very happy to share that we've gotten permission from the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs to safely install all the flags on the veterans' graves in Spring Grove Cemetery. So that will be happening in the next couple of days, and we always appreciate seeing that remembrance. There will be other small ways that Memorial Day will be commemorated, things that will not be publicized, because we find that if they're publicized, then we're likely to have people gathering in groups larger than they're allowed to. So I just want to assure you that Memorial Day will be remembered appropriately. Unfortunately, part of the reopening today was to be hair salons and barbershops. The governor rescinded that ability on Monday, so hair salons are not opening today. They will hopefully open in early June. I know that's been a tremendous hardship for our local hair salon owners, most who've contacted me, who had all done everything right. They spent a lot of money getting their cleaning supplies, changing the interiors of their salons, buying all the PPP or PPE at what sometimes was exorbitant prices, only to be told that they can't yet open. So, we follow the rules, so that is what it is, but a disappointment to be sure. As you know, our beaches and parks are now open to vehicles. Things are generally going well. I got some complaints over the weekend about young people continuing to gather, but the information that we've gotten from our enforcement agents and the Darien Police Department, who are working together on enforcement, is that there are groups of kids, but they're all generally groups of 5 or less, and they are distancing on the beaches. So I want to first thank everybody for following those rules, and I want to continue to message to you and for your kids that in order to make these openings successful, they have to be safe, and so we have to follow the rules. We are working, the town of Darien, myself, my department, and the Chamber of Commerce has been working very closely with our local business community. We have collaborated and put out a small business survey to our community, and that has some really interesting results. John, I think I sent that along to you, and I'd be happy to send that along to anybody else on this call that's interested to see it. We're working with the Fairfield County SCORE group and some folks from the Darien Men's Association. Fairfield County SCORE has been awesome. We had a teleconference yesterday, and we have their contact information on the town website. They are available to offer one-on-one mentoring to any business owner here in Darien that wishes to avail themselves of their consulting services. So we're very, very fortunate. We're also fortunate to have the great service of Christine Sullivan, who is the Small Business Association representative for our community. She's been great, working hand in hand with some of our local business owners on many of the assistance programs, the small business loans and the PPP loans. So have really supported our local businesses from our end, and also some of our commercial tenants, landlords in town have done an awesome job keeping their businesses afloat until today when they can open their doors. Also, the support of our nonprofit sector has been incredible. The Human Service Planning Council has come together to direct support to wherever it's been needed, not only through our Human Service Department here in the town, but also to our business community. And I really want to give a shout out to the Community Fund for organizing what they call the Mask Brigade, and that is to connect local cottage industry mask makers to adopt a local business so that everybody, all employees, have cloth masks to wear, in addition to the disposable masks that the town is providing for our local businesses. Beginning on June 1st, we will begin to bring back some of our town hall employees who have been working from home. We will follow all of the rules outlined for office buildings, no more than 50% occupancy, We will continue to operate on a by appointment only basis. So if you come to Town Hall, please call first. You need an appointment. You'll be required to wear a mask when you're in Town Hall, and you'll be required to utilize hand sanitizer and to sign in so that we have a record of who visits Town Hall for contact tracing purposes. And finally, on a really positive note, I participated last night in a sort of a web panel organized by John England in New Canaan called Borough to the Burbs. And this was a panel of people from both Connecticut and New York City, developers, talking about how in our COVID environment there are a lot of folks who are rethinking how they want to live. The high density living environment has gone out of favor. And so real estate is beginning to really pick up here in Darien, and I think that Darien is so well poised with our redevelopment activities, the support that we have here in the town from our nonprofits and our business sector and local government, our excellent schools, is all going to come together to, I think, really help boost a wonderful resurgence of our local economy as we begin to work our way out of the COVID pandemic crisis. So I'm super optimistic, lots of great indicators, and with that, I will take any questions to me.
No, but great work, Jamie.
Thank you.
You're always on it. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you, Terry. Thanks for joining.
Can I add one thing to what Jamie said?
Sure.
It's with regards to exactly what she just spoke, and I've surveyed it too. It's the urban to suburban move. Two of my biggest clients are the developers of the apartment buildings that are in Stanford, and also Elcor, which is the developer of a huge apartment complex that's in White Plains. That's all new construction. Ironically enough, the gentleman who's the CEO of Elcor in White Plains is a Darien resident. I can tell you that what Jamie just touched on from a hands-on real-time thing is true. People are moving out of Manhattan and coming to the suburbs. Stanford and Fairfield County is a little bit more targeted relative to Westchester County, just because Westchester County did get a little bit of a black eye when this whole thing started. I reached out to a bunch of realtors in town. There are no rental houses available in our town. The new construction houses are being purchased quicker because they're mostly in moving condition. And also, I did hear a true story of someone that purchased a house in town about a week and a half ago, FaceTime on their phone from me. So they're not even coming to town. They're buying houses without even seeing them. So as a little bit of caution for the Board of Education, you may have kids in your school come September 1st. It's anecdotally, it's true, and the guys that I talk to, that are in Stanford, they're coming. And if you're renting an apartment, if you're a couple and you're thinking about coming, a year from now, because you had a kid that was 2 years old and you want to wait till ELP started at 3 or whatever it is, most of those young couples that are in Brooklyn or Manhattan have changed their plans and accelerated them by a year. So
I see. I think exactly what you're seeing in business and what Jamie is hearing is what we are hearing anecdotally. And certainly we welcome all kids when they show up on our doorstep that are Darien residents that first day of school. So I think we are expecting it. The tricky part of this comes with when we reopen schools and if there's issues like social distancing with increased enrollment and population, those become real issues that I'm sure we will handle, but we are preparing for it. I think if you look at any real estate news or real estate rag, they will tell you that the urban to suburban move is real. I've also spoken to realtors that there's no rentals currently available in town, but that home sales are on the uptick. So, well, I think that's great for our overall economy and community, and I think Darien is a very welcoming place for people to come. It certainly will present a challenge for the schools, and I am sure I will be back talking in more detail with all of you about that.
Good luck.
Jamie, can I ask just a quick question, and I think it dovetailed, I know you have to jump, but between the opening of businesses, which is super exciting, kind of movements into town as we see them come, are we as a town, with the governor's continued requirements for PPE, are we as a town preparing for that outside of the nonprofit sector at this point, or is that kind of a wait and a hold? And I ask certainly because I think the schools will have to start to think and prepare on this front.
From a municipal perspective, yes, there are rules, certainly for us in town hall, in the police department, in our town garage, and for every office setting. I'm sure that there will be rules for your school setting that have not yet come out yet since you're not open. But certainly these rules would apply to the workers who are in 35 Leroy, the office rules. We are all required here to wear masks when we're not in our individual offices or cubicles, and all of the diligent cleaning protocols. So you can find this information, again, on the ct.gov/coronavirus website. It's called Sector Rules. They were initially issued on May 8th. They've been amended as late as this past Monday. So those rules apply for everyone. There's nothing there yet for schools, Tara, but certainly applies to your office environment.
So my question's a little bit different. My question is, as a town, are we preparing for the purchase of PPE?
For whom?
I guess I'd make it broadly, either are we doing it for municipal employees, are we doing it for all town residents, or are we in, like the schools, a wait and see phase at this point?
So yes, employers, which would be the school district as well, and town hall, we are required to provide PPE to our employees. That is true of all businesses. We have provided PPE to all of our food service employees through the Darien Health Department. We are providing PPE to our business owners with these disposable masks. We have provided PPE to our seniors and to our vulnerable families. We have not made the decision to do a town-wide distribution of disposable masks the way some cities and towns have done. I posed that question to members of the Human Service Planning Council, and we believe that the efforts that we are undertaking are better directed and more sustainable. Disposable masks are good until they get dirty or break, and so that one-time distribution is it was a point-in-time effort, which I appreciate, but really we want to help people get into their hands some reusable masks, and we have local businesses who are making those. People can avail themselves of those. If you go to the dressmaker downtown, she's got awesome masks. They're all over Amazon. And so for the general public, we are encouraging them to take personal responsibility for procuring masks or using anything they have at home as a cloth face covering. But we do believe that we have everyone else well covered in terms of municipal staff, and certainly we're happy to work with the district if you have any of those needs. I do have a number of sources for those disposable surgical masks.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think I heard Terry Wood on the call. Is there anyone else on the call, Kate, with us today?
No, Jamie, it just looks, no. I think
Okay, so
that's John. Chief, I just have a very brief update because I know you've got a 10 o'clock
Yep.
call. Most important to know are the budget numbers, projected budget numbers for fiscal 20 and fiscal 21. Consensus revenue numbers came out at the end of April, and the deficit for fiscal 20 is going to be $958 million, and the deficit for fiscal 21 is projected to be about $1.8 billion. So our rainy day fund is 2.5. God bless, we've got a great rainy day fund, but it's going to be a very, very challenging couple of years for the budget. So we all need to be aware of that and do what we can. The other issue is, it's funny that the hair salon, everybody was sort of cool with what was not cool, but dealing with what was going on. But the sudden closure or not allowing the hair salons to open up just exploded. People were, and salons, I've gotten hundreds of emails from salon owners saying, we were ready, we want to open. So I think we're coming to that nexus of what is individual liberty and when can the individual say, I'm willing to take that risk. I know who I am, I know my health, I'm going to take that risk. And especially if you know the salon and you know they exercise safe protocols in usual days and they're taking extra precautions now, people were frustrated by that, and I understand that. But hopefully June 1st, they will be able to open up. Boston Consulting Group has now taken the place of Reopen Connecticut, and they'll be advising now on what the rest of reopening looks like. So please give me a call or email me. Happy to help.
thanks, Terry.
I understand protests going on in Hartford today of those hairdressers, et cetera, that want to open. They had one.
Yep.
Correct.
And with the governor, I'd like to be the governor for that.
Yeah, it's tricky. Finding that balance is tricky. So it is what it is. We move forward and we try and find that right balance.
Okay, any questions for Terry? One other thing that I'd like to add to my report is that our COVID-19 testing continues at the Darien High School. Monday afternoons from 1 to 4, Friday mornings from 9 to 12. That service is available to anyone in town that wants it. You no longer have to have specific symptoms. The idea behind opening up the testing to the general public is to try and find those asymptomatic positive cases so that folks can, as we begin to reopen, folks that might be positive and don't know it can continue to quarantine so that they don't intermingle in the communities in our shops and restaurants and spread the virus unknowingly. So anybody that wants to avail themselves of that service, you just need to, you can find the information on the town website. We use Murphy Medical Associates for this testing. The site's been really busy this week, which is great. So again, if you want those tests, it's an easy sign up on the Murphy Medical Associates website. Any other questions or comments from anybody this morning?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks,
Second.
Steve. Thank you, John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye? Aye. Okay. Have a great day, everybody.